In my opinion, design has fallen into the marketing trap of persuasion, and it needs to get back to being about usability. I'm going to talk about how design at its best has the same values as the internet at its best. Some of you will think this is basically a form versus function debate, which we've heard many, many times before. But it isn't. It's different. What has changed since 1997 is that the internet has come along, and the internet has changed everything. Since 1997, I've done many things, but the day job is as Director of Design at the Government Digital Service. I have been a civil servant now for 4 years, but I'd like to talk to you about some of the things I've learned driving design in an organisation that's close to 400,000 people. For those of you that don't know, the Government Digital Service is a digital team in the Cabinet Office at the heart of government, building services so good people prefer to use them. Shortly after the coalition government came to power in 2010, Frances Maud, Minister for the Cabinet Office, asked Martha Lane Fox to write a report on government digital. Her report broke down into 4 main areas: set up GDS, set up a central team of digital experts inside government, fix publishing. So that's the majority of websites that you'll be familiar with. DirectGov, BusinessLink, departments had their own websites. Fix transactions, buying your car tax online, renewing your passport. And then 4th was go wholesale, and that's make sure that that approach doesn't become an innovation unit. Make sure that that approach doesn't become an outlier. Make sure that that approach becomes the norm. So we moved nearly 2,000 websites, all with different branding, all with different look and feel, all with different navigation, all with different ways of conveying information. We moved those and we made just one, gov.uk. And we had some success. We won some awards. But more important than awards, last year, the Government Digital Service and digital colleagues all across government, not just gov.uk, we've saved £1.7 billion. But more important than awards and more important than savings is that we've made things easier for users. We focused relentlessly on user needs. Right at the start of the project, we wrote 10 design principles. And the first one was start with needs, user needs, not government needs. I thought I'd give you some examples of what that means in reality. These are some icons that we had on a very early version of the site. So we thought the question mark meant this is a page that you may not know. It's an answer to a query. We thought the orange folder represented guidance. When we tested it, users had absolutely no idea what any of them meant at all. And in fact, the orange one that looks like a door, users thought represented a door, and often they would click on it thinking it was a way to exit the site. And it didn't. So despite the fact they look great, we just deleted them. Would that have been the same if we were managing a brand and we were caught up in that language of persuasion and the icons are part of our brand assets and they're really important to the brand? I don't think it would. I don't think we'd have been so brutal, and I don't think we'd have been so focused. So how do we work at GDS? What's our design process? Well, there's a couple of things that in my time at GDS I've said to other designers and other creative organizations, and it's always struck them as strange. Those are all the designers at GDS can code. The ones that have come in that can't code have taught themselves to code because it's just easier to work in that system if you can code. Everyone starts by sketching. We don't make any wireframes. We don't make any Photoshop mock-ups. And we're making the thing, not a picture of the thing. So we go from paper and sketch to real code as quickly as we can. And then we test that with real users. I don't sign work off like an executive creative director because we're too agile for that. Thousands of people publish to gov.uk every day. There are thousands of content changes. But in terms of structural changes or design changes, we make about 8 changes every day. It would be impossible and silly for somebody to sign all of those off. So the teams publish their own work. They decide if it's good to go live, and they publish it. What's happened since we've introduced that system is a peer review system has emerged, where if it's a fairly small change, no one needs to look at it. We've done it before, it's fine. Goes live. If it's slightly more important, the teams will get together themselves and they'll say, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you think about that? If it's bigger, they'll come to me, or amongst a group, they'll say, we think we should maybe talk to Ben about this. That's a proper agile design process. In my experience, very few design teams are agile. Even in the big digital organizations where they're using agile to do software development, it's rare that they use it for a design process. Not only are we agile, which is a key behavior of the internet, we're also open. So we don't have any brand guidelines. We don't have a 100-page PDF document that lands on your desk as a designer and the first thing you think is, great, how can I get around this? We have a series of principles and a series of guidelines and code that goes along with it, and they're published. They're published on gov.uk. Anyone can see them. But we don't just decide those. There's a thing called a hackpad, which is effectively a wiki, and all the designers across government are contributing to those design patterns. They're changing them, they're testing them with user research, they're joining in that conversation, saying maybe this is a better way to do this, or this is how we're doing this in our department. That's what they're doing with alphas and betas. When we get to a state where we think that's working well, that's been tested, that's pretty robust, then we move it into the design elements page. But again, that's a very agile process, and it's a very open design process. This, again, is public. Anyone can look at this. This is super important because openness, in my opinion, is an essential part of leadership now. Lots of ideas and strong leadership is better than one big idea. It's actually the way creatives are taught. The big idea is everything. And in my opinion, that's wrong, and that's changing. The design industry has become obsessed with novelty and obsessed with persuasion. The internet is forcing it to change. Design needs to focus on user needs. It can concentrate on fixing the basics. Trust equals delivery, design should be more agile, and design should be more open. Because usability trumps persuasion.